Welcome to the Stygian Stilettos Gamer channel. This is StygianSis. Please like, share, and subscribe, and find me at twitter.com/StygianSis. Hey, Final Fantasy fam. Cloti Clerith Wars is back, so I'm calling this the Remake Redux. What I want to do, since I first done the first part of the series of Cloti Clerith Wars, I've learned a lot more context that will help us understand and be able to properly give weight to each of these scenes that we will go over. Now, whereas what I did in the first part of the series, I went through big chunks of the game at once, I'm going to actually do scene by scene analyses this time. So what we're going to do is first talk about the context as far as the compilation for each of these clips. Then I'll get into my analysis, and I'll, of course, link any sources that I have for this. But since I first did this, we now have Trace of Two Paths, which has dropped a huge amount of new information, completely new information that's written by Nojima. Then we also have multiple Ultimanias that have come out. And we have Integrate, which had a little more, a couple little scenes from Tifa that might prove useful later in this series. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to go over is, are you too close? This is in chapter 1. This is the very first cloudy moment that happens.
So, you know Tifa, right? It's not really my business, but are you guys close?
Are you ignoring me?
Tifa and I.
Okay, and there's our clip. First thing I'd like to point out about the compilation is Trace of Two Paths actually lets us know that Jessie and Tifa were quite close in the early days that she was in Midgard. Tifa was in Midgard. She was actually her first friend, and she did tell Jessie about her past. I do not know how specifically they talk about it, but it does not appear that she talked about Cloud specifically. More of a general, my hometown was burned down, I almost died, I'm paying off these medical bills. And so that might shed some light into how we analyze this particular scene and why Jessie chooses to ask the question that she asks. Second is, this is actually an altered memory by Cloud. This was confirmed in the Ultimania, and all sources will be linked in the description. But this was actually confirmed by the Ultimania that though the memory did happen, parts of the memory were altered. So the part where Tifa actually waves Cloud down and, says those lines to him, that did not actually occur. Whereas I didn't have much to say about it before, I actually have a lot of thoughts on it now, especially knowing what I know from Trace of Two Paths and the Ultimania. First thing I'd like to address is the false memory itself. Now, I want to specify, when we say false memories, in OG and in Remake, the one thing that is clear, especially once you know the full story, and in conjunction with what this Ultimania has confirmed, his mind is not making up memories out of whole cloth. These are all real memories of his. I think the reason it's so effective in convincing him as well as confusing Tifa along the way is because all of these things happened. The problem is his mind is making up either, certain parts of it. For instance, with this memory, he's remembering Tifa calling out to him, whereas that didn't happen. With the memories about Zack, all of those things he was there to witness. However, he has replaced himself in the memories with, he has replaced Zack in the memories with himself. But all of these memories are current, so that's one thing to note. But if we're talking about what implications this would have for Cloudy, we already know that Tifa is in love with him. So at the end of the day, I see no real implications with this. I think it's going to be more of a plot device to bring turmoil. But as far as the resolution to their relationship, I see nothing ultimately that's going to be a problem here. Okay, let's talk about Jessie's question to him in the first place. Yes, are they close? She doesn't know his name. We know that from a couple moments ago. It shows in Trace of Two Paths that they were actually quite close, she and Tifa, at one point. It also says that she divulges her past to Jessie, but I think it was more general. You know, my hometown was burned down. I almost died. I'm paying off these huge medical bills, because she notices how sad Tifa is. She goes to see where she lives, and you know, she's just distressed about the situation. And so Jessie asks her what's going on. Now, what you can obviously take away from that is she has told no one about Cloud. My personal, because, you know, there's two ways you could take this. One is she didn't think about it much, the book does show that she thinks about where he could be and things like that, but I actually think of something that happens in the live stream scene, where Cloud says like a sealed up secret wish that no one can know about. The whole past for her is so painful. I mean, you know, she doesn't talk about it much at all. Jessie may be the only one that knows, depending on how much Jessie knows in the first place. She may be the only one that even knows sort of what happened. I mean, Barrett in the staircase in chapter 16, he says he knows that they're dead, but he knows nothing else. It appears that she probably tells Jessie a little more details, but she clearly doesn't want to talk about it at all. So I think it's partly trauma, and then partly also she hasn't talked to anyone about her feelings about Cloud. So if we, you know, I don't think that we have enough information to where we could really read too much into Jessie's question and the fact that she doesn't know who he is. Again, the fact that Trace of Two Paths already confirms Tifa's in love with him, just another part that I find inconsequential. If anything, it's just something she keeps to herself, either due to trauma and or due to the fact that, you know, people don't generally go around telling people that they're in love with somebody of which they haven't even expressed those feelings. Or I wouldn't take too much away from the fact that Tifa has not told anybody about him, because Zach was his best friend. He didn't even tell him that he was in love with Tifa. So, assuming he was, we're just wondering. I mean, you know, just speculation. He didn't tell him that. Well, let me put it this way. Trace of Two Paths confirms that Cloud only told Tifa about his intentions to be a soldier. So, he didn't tell Zach. He didn't tell his own mother. But obviously, it meant enough for him to go join the army and possibly die to do it. So that's all I'm saying, is that just because they aren't gossiping amongst their people about their feelings about each other does not mean that they aren't there. Now, on to Cloud. So he's asked about Tifa, and the first thing that he does is drift off into space and think of a memory of theirs, just a completely random memory, just one where he laid eyes on her. Then as he's thinking of it, his mind is altering the memory as it's happening to make it seem more affectionate than it even was. And then when you come back to his face, you'll actually see it's quite red. At first, you know, a lot of us, we noticed it, but wasn't quite sure. Or maybe it was our TV, maybe it's something weird. In the remake, I've used several different monitors. You know, it's not my monitor. I've seen several different videos of it. I now have integrated. It's even clearer than it was. His face, he's blushing. And then he slowly turns to Jessie and attempts to answer the question, and then Barry jumps in. Now, not only that, you know, there's two times that he's actually asked about his relationship with Tifa. It's then and also when Aerith asks him. He either takes too long to answer the question, or he just flat out says, I can't explain it. That is not the actions to me of someone who is just, because if you're just friends with somebody, you say, oh, hey, are you too close? Oh, yeah, we're friends. We grew up together. Oh, okay. That's how you answer a question when you're not in love with the person who is the topic of conversation. So, the way I look at these clips, there are a couple things. I'm taking into consideration when this is occurring. So, for instance, I would not use the hug later and say that there's any implications of that hug that happens in chapter 14 to this scene, because it didn't happen. He doesn't. I would not even use the promise. He doesn't remember the promise at this point. So, there's a lot of things. While later on this would add to the context of that, it would not have any implications in this particular part of the story. But I also look at mutuality. It is confirmed in Trace of Two Paths that Tifa is in love with Cloud. Specifically, the book says when he made that promise to her and told her about his dream to become a soldier, it made her realize that he wasn't this distant star in the sky. That's how she describes him, a star in the sky, something beautiful to look at, but unobtainable. She realizes that he's just a regular boy at that point. And it actually makes her, the way to describe it is feelings of, wanting to be closer to him in a romantic aspect, in a love way. So it's confirmed that she already is romantically interested in Cloud. Now, So for instance, with her scenes, I'm going to be taking that into consideration. However, just knowing that Tifa loves him does not make a relationship. There has to be mutuality, as I said. So the fact that Cloud is asked about Tifa and is just blushing just from the question and thinking about her and not thinking about how sexy she is. By the way, this is another thing that I see a lot, that, he's only into her because of her boobs and blah, blah. The first member he thinks of, she's 8 years old. I mean, that he's known this girl his entire life, and she did not look like she does now his entire life. So the implication is ludicrous. I mean, what can you do with that? But I definitely see feelings from Cloud, and I'm also going to put more weight on Cloud's feelings just because his feelings have always been the ones in question. It has never been whether Aerith or Tifa has affection for him. That's obvious if you ask me. So I'm definitely going to give this moment, I'll give it 3 crescent moons. I don't want to overdo it, but I think it definitely, the blushing and the inability to come out with a quick answer. Yeah, we're just friends. I think that says a lot more than, maybe certain people want to admit. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Now, my sources, as I said, I'm going to put them in the description. There are a lot of great translators that have been online translating the Ultimania and the Trace of Two Paths books. We all appreciate it as, collectively as a fandom. It is a great service. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. They have to go back and correct themselves sometimes, which it takes a big person to say, hey, I think I was wrong about that, and correct yourself. So I gotta give them props when they, put that time and effort in to do something completely free just to help out the fandom. I always want to give big love to that. So, there's a pretty famous streamer. Sorry, I don't know why I'm struggling. Pretty famous streamer named Audrey that I used as my reference for the Ultimania Plus that talks about the false memory. My girl Hayashi Nagisa, she's done some great translating for the Trace of Two Paths book. Day and night, this girl was up. and we love her for it. So there's another one. I didn't get a chance to look at his stuff for this, but I will be looking into his stuff as well, because he's there's people on all sides of the shipping that are doing the translating. So we want want to be even about it, get different interpretations, but these interpretations were pretty straightforward. The feelings for Tifa's feelings for Cloud, and the Ultimania Plus saying that the memory is false. But yeah, that is it for this video. Please come back for the next. This is Stygian Stilettos Gamer, and I am # out of here, honey.